All right, now that I'm comfy in my chair, what's good, guys? It's your host, Sage Samurai here, and welcome to the channel. Honestly, welcome. If you guys don't know, I posted yesterday the last part. Well, not the last part. I posted yesterday a part 2. What if Luffy had sunshine? So yeah, and also I decided to answer people's in the comments questions. One of them asked me if I plan to finish the series or like the rest of them. Like, what if Asta had Mihawk sword skills, or pretty much the other ones, like what if Naruto had Gogeta's powers, pretty much the ones that I left behind. Yes, I do plan on finishing them. And for those actually wondering about, what if what if Deku had Sasuke's powers, I plan to remaster that one. Not gonna lie, I gave up on it halfway, and honestly, it took me a while, but I finally wrote like a decent script for it. As during that time, I was just winging it because I thought it was a cool idea, and at first I had like a butt ton of ideas for it, but then I got sidetracked. I began to add a bunch of other weird stuff, and it just fell apart. So I plan to revise that what if. But besides that, guys, I just want to let you guys know about that information because all of that is going to be in the future. But for now, let's focus on the present. This being another part 2. What if Asta had Mihawk sword skills? So besides all this, guys, once again, thank you for your support and thank you for tuning in. And why don't we go ahead and finally get started with this what if?
You're never gonna make it, you're not good enough. There's a million other people with the same stuff. You really think you're different, man, you must be kidding. Think you're gonna hit it, but you just don't get it. It's impossible, it's not probable, you're irresponsible. Too many obstacles, you gotta stop it, yo. You gotta take it slow, you can't be a pro. Don't waste your time no more. Who the fuck are you to tell me what to do?
Alright, guys, now let's begin with this what if. So if you guys don't know, in the last part, which again I recommend you guys watch it, in the last part we left off with Asta as well as the rest of the group finally arriving at the Clover Kingdom, where they saw it was pretty much attacked by a bunch of elves. Luckily, the Black Bulls eventually got it all under control until eventually a portal would then open up at the center of the Clover Kingdom. So not much really changes from the canon after that, as pretty much the assembled team, as they do in canon, would then go through the portal, intending on finishing off the final bosses. So I believe I'm going to pick up where we last left off right there. Eventually, after going through the tunnel of mana, Asta would then fall through a hole as he ends up looking around as he was all by himself. However, this is when suddenly, just like that, he would then sense a presence above as he would weave out of the way just as Mimosa would come and join him. So due to this, it's exactly where they were, as now everyone was split up into groups just like they were in canon. So the same group with Mimosa and Asta are still the same. So eventually, after realizing that they're now together right now, both Asta and Mimosa would then begin to walk through, as Asta would use his haki, of course, to sense around for any danger. And danger seems to call upon Asta, as just like that, after moving towards a couple of steps, they would eventually arrive into the room where they see the captain, Ril, who currently right now is just using his painting magic until he spots Asta. Oh, it's you again. I can't quite understand, but this art piece isn't done. You mind helping me here? As is when suddenly Asta would then be surrounded by multiple monsters, as Mimosa would of course back away towards him. But this is when Asta would then scoff, as with the flick of his wrist, he would destroy each one of them with a slice of his katana. He then points to Ril, he then says, "I don't know exactly who you are or exactly what type of elf you were, but this ends now." As Asta would then put his blade back into his sheath, he would then get into a stance as he then blitzes, appearing right in front of Ril and cuts up the entire paint set that he had, as Ril would actually be able to dodge just a little bit out of the way. "Damn you, you ruined my artwork," he would shout, as this is when he would then use the brush that he still had on him to draw a bunch of monsters as they continue rushing at Asta. Asta would just scoff, as not even using anti-magic, he would slice through them like they were nothing. As this is when he would then realize that Ril, even though he was strong, the reincarnated elf was not making him any stronger than he already was. So Asta, not wanting to be the one to deal with all this nonsense, will then sigh as he decides to do advanced armament haki. Getting into the stance, Asta would wait as each one of these monsters would then rush towards him, ready to end him right then and there. But then this is when suddenly, in a blink of an eye, he would then appear right in front of Ril, just as the rest of the monsters would then blow up, as they literally had been cut down to pieces. As right before he can even utter a word, Ril would then fall into unconsciousness, as Asta would swing and hit him with the blunt of his blade, as he would get knocked unconscious. And due to this will actually cause the rest of the the drawn creatures to go ahead and disappear, leaving Asta and Mimosa the only ones standing. At this, Mimosa rush over to him. I can't talk. Jeez. Mimosa would rush over to him as she would check on the captain, looking at Asta and worried, as she thought he may have accidentally cut him up. But this is when Asta wouldn't shake his head and saying that he didn't do anything like that, as he hit him with the blunt part of the blade, so that means he's just okay. But seeing this opportunity though, Asta would then infuse it with anti-magic, as he would use it to lift away the curse of the reincarnated elves. As due to this, the reincarnated elves would actually be upset, but this is when Asta would then look at it, as this is when he would then tell him that this is for the best. And besides, people can change, even those who are scum. At this, of course the elf looks at Asta with distrust, but it's not like he has nothing else to, so he just agrees to it, as it would then go on and pass, as Asta would be left there looking up at it, as this is when Asta would then turn back to the captain, who was still on the ground. At this, he ends up telling Mimosa to find somewhere safe to put him, as well as give him a little bit of healing, so that way later on he can join on in this fight. At this, she nods as they both find an area for him to relax, as Mimosa uses her magic to make a small little bed for him, just there, as well as healed him a little bit, so that way he can wake up later on. But after taking care of that, both of them will then dash off, ready to face off against more threats. And after that, a couple of few events end up occurring just after these moments. That being the fact that Yuno decides to join the fray, as after eventually arriving, he ends up dashing into the Shadow Palace, ready to assist his comrades. Another thing is that Noelle is still having her fight, with Jack actually being the one to save her, unlike what she wanted it to be Asta, but, we can't do anything about that. So due to this, both of them are now face off against Fauna, who completely had a complete personality changeover. However, while this was happening though, we then turn back to Asta and Mimosa, who Asta, after feeling the after feeling the key of Yuno entering, he could already tell something was wrong. As this is when he asked Mimosa for the layout of the building or the structure, she will then show him that Yuno was now facing off against 3 elves. As Asta seeing this, he then tells Mimosa to hold on, as he would then enter his anti-magic mode, as he would then sprout some anti-magic wings, as he would then burst through the walls up ahead, as he flies all the way to the area where Yuno is exactly at. Back with Yuno though, as soon as he had arrived there, he had been faced off against 3 elves, and was currently doing pretty well, until suddenly bursting to the ground underneath, we would then see Asta accompanied by Mimosa, who was holding on to him for dear life. After that, Yuno would actually look at him as he tries to hide away the pleased look that he had, as he did not feel so confident to take these guys on by himself. At this, after finally arriving, Asta would put Mimosa right there, as he ends up walking close to Yuno, as they're now facing off against the few elves that were there. However, as Asta was looking though, you wouldn't turn to Yuno only to realize that the magic stone that Yuno had on him was gone. Where the heck is it? At this, Yuno actually ends up looking around, as he says that he got caught off guard. At this, Asta looks at Yuno with an expression that was completely blank, before turning back to the others, as this is when suddenly Ronnie, I believe that's how you pronounce it, the other elf, would then smile as he ends up seeing the stone now in his hands. At this, of course, as he then says that this will finally allow their plans to go into fruition, Raya catches up on him saying that was a lie, and this is where certain events begin to take place, resulting in 1, Raya being extremely injured, and 2, the demon to finally show itself, the word demon. As this is when he would then appear right there on full display, as Pachi would look at him in shock. At this, he ends up telling Patri about everything, about what he did, how he pretty much was the whole instigator to this whole situation right now, which pisses off Patri as he ends up shooting an attack at the demon, only for him to dodge, as he would then appear right in front of him and transform him into a dark elf. As Patri would scream out and finally end up limping down onto the ground, as he was still undergoing the transformation, Asta and Yuno would then turn to this word demon as they got pissed off. So due to this, Asta and Yuno would then begin to rev up their magics / anti-magics, as Asta could already tell this one was way more powerful than any threat he faced off currently, while Yuno also had to agree with him on that one. So due to this, instantly, right out of the gate, Yuno would enter his spirit dive, while Asta would enter his anti-magic mode. As both of them would face off against the word demon, he would then turn to them with a sly grin. Interesting. You possess a very large amount of magic. And you, however, right before he turned his attention to Asta, his senses were then cut off as Asta had appeared. Well, actually, no, he didn't appear. He actually sent a anti-magic slash that was so fast, it cut up one of his horns. As the word demon would back away in shock, Asta would then be like, if you have time to speak, then you have time to fight. At this, he ends up looking at Asta with a cold sweat. This human, he's not like the others, he then says. As this is when suddenly he would then use his word magic as he would begin to increase the gravity around Asta and Yuno. At this, Yuno ends up shuffling around because of the way he just got, while Asta, he was unfazed. He trained his body, more than Yuno, of course. So due to this, he was really not even affected by it. As due to this, the word demon was about to put even more magic into it, only to dodge as Asta appears right in front of him, as he tries to slice him down with his katana, only for the magic demon to dodge. Damn it, he's fast. At this, Asta would look at him as he tries once again a few other times to hit him, but the word demon was able to get away as he increases the gravity on Asta even further. However, the thing was the fact that Asta, like I said, has trained his body, but the one downside to this was the fact that Asta would slowly but surely begin to lose more and more speed. The weight was not exactly affecting him because he was not at all like losing any stamina or endurance, as he had a large amount of it, but it was making him slower, which caused Asta to tick in annoyance. Dang it. As this is when he would then turn to the word demon, as seeing the opportunity, he would then shoot off a bunch of swords directly towards Asta. At this, Asta, using the ability to read ki, can already tell where each one of them was coming. However, as he ends up blocking some of them, he ends up realizing that some of them are not exactly magic. But that meant little to nothing to Asta. As this is when suddenly, just like that, as Asta was of course, parrying away all of them, the word team would actually appear literally like a few feet away from Asta, right close to him, as he then shoots off a ginormous burst of wind. At this, Asta looks at it as he prepares to counter, only for Yuno to get into the way, as he shoots off and counters it with his own. As he ends up smirking at Asta, saying something like he was having a little bit of trouble, to which Asta just scoffed, saying that he had it in the bag. As both of them would then send each other a competitive smirk, Asta and Yuno would then switch positions, as this is when Yuno would actually be the one to defend from the swords, as Asta would then dash towards the demon. At this, of course, said demon, now that he had to focus off of Asta for a little bit, this forced him to actually loosen the weight on Asta, meaning that Asta was now able to go back to his original speed. And due to this, the demon was actually surprised as he was caught off guard by Asta's speed, as he once again appeared right in front of him, and using the anti-magic blades, using his anti-magic katana, Asta would be able to cut his arm. As the word demon would scream out in pain, he ends up dashing off, using his word magic to boost the speed of his, just to boost his speed, as he ends up getting as far away from Asta as he could. But Asta was hunting him down, as each time he tries to make distance, Asta would appear literally a few seconds from him. Due to this, he was now on his toes, but this was then he realized there was another occurrence. As this is when Asta would then smirk, as he then vanishes right before he got close to him, confusing the word demon, as this is when suddenly he would then be blasted by some type of wind blast. He gets slammed into the ground. Damn it, he shouts as he ends up turning to the other one, Yuno. As both Asta and Yuno will be there, as they're now standing there floating menacingly, as each one of them had their respective forms. At this, realizing that he was now in a very bad position and realizing that he needed time to retreat, he ends up turning to Patri, who is currently on the ground, still transforming into his dark elf transformation. As he ends up manipulating him, causing him to now lash out in anger as he attacks both Asta and Yuno, forcing them to dodge. However, due to this, using the opportunity, he ends up making some type of portal, to which he ends up going through it. At this, Asta seeing this will get angry as he shoots off an anti-magic slash, only for Patri to get into the way of it as he ends up taking the blunt of it, screaming out in pain. At this, Asta gets angry as the word demon would then look at Asta with a smirk on his face, saying that this was not the end. However, Asta just scoffs. Not if I have anything to say about it. As due to this, Asta, using speeds that literally no one was able to keep track at this very moment, no one, he would appear right in front of the word demon, as he ends up landing a very powerful strike directly to his eye, causing him to scream out in pain just as he fully goes through the portal as he swears vengeance on Asta. Seeing that he had now gotten away, Asta gets, of course, a little bit ticked, as he then turns to Patri, who's currently going up against Yuno, as Yuno was having a little bit of difficulty. It seems as if turning into a dark elf, it seemed to have boosted Patri's abilities. Seeing this, Asta can do nothing more but sigh, as he realized that now he has to pick up over this man's, mess. As is when, just like that, Asta would then shout at Yuno, as seeing this, Yuno would actually understand the signal, as he would then create a ginormous wind blade. At this, Asta would do the same, as if you guys want an idea for this finisher, think of it as the combination that you get from Ninja Storm 4, I believe, with Itachi and Shisui. As just like that, in a blink of an eye, as the lake Patri prepares an attack, both Asta and Yuno will then appear on separate sides of each other, as each one of them will be wielding their respective blades, before putting them away. As this is when a ginormous gash from slashes of anti-magic and wind magic would then be shot throughout the entire body of Patri, as he ends up getting into a mixed tornado of these respective attacks. As by the time both Asta and Yuno were done, Patri had a bunch of cuts all over him, as he would then fall into the ground, losing conscious instantly. At this, Asta and Yuno would then send each other a smirk, as this is when suddenly the other ones would arrive, such as Nozel, as he ends up arriving just to see that it was already done. At this, Nozel was about to speak up, but Yuno tells him that now is not the time, as Asta walks over to Patri. And I'm not going to change much from what happens in canon, as pretty much he was able to release the hold of the word demon from Patri. And so, due to this, after a while of these certain events occurring, finally Patri ends up regaining his consciousness, and both of them, Patri and Raya would actually agree to team up with the humans, if they meant that they were able to defeat the word demon. So due to this, now having a group, they will finally decide to arrive at the final floor, the area where the word demon was. Now, during this moment, the word demon was actually able to recover himself pretty well, using his word magic, of course. However, he was still pretty weak, and due to the fact that Asta anti-magic was no joke. So, it was not really all that surprising, as just as he arrived on the final floor, he would end up encountering Licht, the original one. As their fierce battle would then begin, as I'm not going to change much from this one because this doesn't really relate much to, Asta having Mihawks sword skills, but the fight still goes on to the same, all the way until Asta and Yuno's arrival. Now, when they had arrived, Asta and Yuno would see, as they turned around to see these ginormous, darkish, I don't even know how to describe this thing. I honestly do not know how to describe this. Let's just say this weird darkish slime, whatever, was going around the entire area. But another thing that they noticed was the fact that the very first Wizard King was actually there, as well as the fact that Asta was able to sense that the girl that was there was actually Nero. But he decided that was more for a later day, as he had bigger problems to deal with. As for the magic demon, he is just there completely now realizing that he's now in an extremely bad situation. However, he was extremely arrogant and prideful, so he just scowled, saying that he would be able to overcome this nonetheless, especially now that he was in the real world and nothing was going to stop him. So due to this, just like in canon, both Licht and the first Wizard King would actually generate their powerful attack, launching it directly at the word demon. However, this wasn't exactly quite enough to finish him off. So seeing this opportunity, both Asta and Yuno would then blitz into action. This time, Yuno going all out, as I'm not going to describe the transformation, as I'm not 100% sure that's really out here yet. Bro, I really need to rewatch the Black Clover anime. I've been reading so much of the manga, I really don't know exactly what to spoil and what not to spoil. Or heck, I really don't want to spoil anyone. So, I really need to watch the anime. So, moving on though. Asta and Yuno would then begin to go into combat, Yuno tapping into his full potential at this point that he could muster, while Asta also giving it his all currently, as both of them were putting the beat down on this thing. The first Wizard King would actually be surprised as these two, due to the fact that Asta having the ability to use anti-magic, and also the fact that someone without any magic at all in this world that was filled with magic was keeping up with people or heck, even beings that were way above him. As this is when the first Wizard King would actually ask, like, this, like, is he from like a family? Like, what type of royal family is he from? Or like, just who was he? Only for Nero to actually answer that question, saying that he was nothing more than a boy without any magic, who ended up growing into the person that he was today, through nothing more but pure hard work and willpower. As hearing the inspirational story, the first Wizard King has a ginormous amount of respect for Asta. As both Asta and Yuno were going into their combat, Yuno ends up turning to Asta and says, "So when exactly are you planning to finish this?" At this, Asta ends up smirking, saying, "In a few seconds." As this went just like that. In 5 seconds, no less, Asta was waiting for something. And just as it arrived, Asta smirks. As this is when suddenly a dark dimension slash, will actually cut up the word demon in half, surprising him, as well as the others, while Asta smirks. That crazy captain of mine really has no limits, does he? As this is when we then turn in the back to where Charlotte is actually looking at Yami in shock, as she saw him actually be able to cut up the word demon. At this, Yami smirks as Charlotte is shocked, as she then turns to him asking if he landed the final blow, but Yami would shake his head, saying that it's not me who's going to land the final blow. It's definitely going to be him. I could already tell. As he ends up giving a smirk, as Asta, who currently right now is seeing the word demon in pain, as at this point it was not at its weakest, Asta would then turn into his final stance. Again, and by the way, guys, I honestly wish Mihawk had, like, his attacks had names. That's how you know Mihawk is good, because this man does not have any names for his attacks. I never once heard him cry out his attack name. I never once heard him. If you guys know, then please type down, because I literally tried searching. This man does not call out his attack's name, which is why he's so busted. But back to it. This is when Asta would get into a stance, as a ginormous amount of anti-magic would then swirl around him. At this, just due to this, the word magic demon would actually turn to Asta and says, No, I won't let it end like this. As he ends up shooting out a bunch of swords, a bunch of different attacks directly towards Asta, as everyone will watch him in bated breath. As this is when Asta would then release the attack, a powerful horizontal slash. This slash was extremely different, as combining with the power of hockey and anti-magic, every single bit of the word demon's creations would then be completely blown away by the anti-magic, but the attack was so powerful that it shook the entire base of the Shadow Palace. As we would then see back into the Clover Kingdom, everyone would then look up into the sky as they feel a ginormous quake, as they would then turn to the sky to see that seemingly has been cut in half completely. As by the time the attack was done, Asta would look as he would see the word demon now falling, as he would then completely just disappear, literally poof into dust. As after this, and finally seeing that the threat was now done, everything began to finally settle in, as this is when suddenly the others would eventually arrive, and after that, things can finally move forward just like they do in canon. So after this, a couple events occur after this. Number one being the fact that they finally get out of the Shadow Palace as it crumbles on itself. Another thing is the fact that Patri actually passes on in this timeline as well. And pretty much most of the things that happen in canon after this event don't really change. And I don't really see anything that really needs changing for these events. But I will say this though. For the final moments that the first Wizard King had, he ended up turning his attention onto Asta and Yuno. He ends up giving both of them a compliment, to which Yuno takes it on with great stride, but Asta says nothing more but gives a natural nod to it. As the first Wizard King would then comment about Yuno, saying pretty much complimenting him on his abilities of magic and everything, and already telling him he had a bright future, he would then turn to Asta. And the first Wizard King, he had to admit, he held great respect for Asta, as he couldn't exactly know what it is, but he saw that in place of Asta, there was another. As Asta had resembled someone that he remembered from his past, but he exactly did not remember who it was. But all he could tell, though, was that Asta had an extremely bright future ahead of him. And he could already see that this man was probably going to be one of, if not the fiercest person in the Clover Kingdom. As he ends up finally saying his farewell scenario, which we end up having that teary goodbye, this is where we're now closing the arc of the elf reincarnation arc. As this is where I'm gonna end this part to the what if. Sorry if you guys saw like some parts of the what if, changed out a little bit and everything. I probably messed up a few other things in here, but like I said, guys, I've been away from the game for a while, and I'm now making a return. Okay. But still, hope you all do enjoy. I decided to stick for something with now this being I make videos pretty much every weekday. But then on the weekend, I take breaks. I make one video every weekday. So that means like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So I'm going to be sticking to that for now. Who knows, maybe I will change it into the future. But for now, hope you all do enjoy. Once again, want to remind y'all that I do plan on remastering a couple of the what ifs in the future, and I'm gonna give you a few hints of the ones that are next up after most of these or all of them are done. That being the fact of what if Naruto was Rick Sanchez or had Rick Sanchez's intelligence? I don't exactly know the title for that one, but just letting you know that one will be remastered and will be making a comeback. What if Deku had Sasuke's power? Definitely gonna remaster that one. I especially want to redo the thumbnail and redo how I told the story. As I don't know where, but somewhere along the lines I just messed it up. So yeah. And again, I really appreciate you guys supporting me. I do also sometimes wish that you guys would give me some information, as I may be like a ginormous anime fan and everything like that. I may watch like a lot of anime, but I'm not gonna remember every single detail of it. But if you guys know something that I don't, then please type it down in the comments. Share any information that you guys have. Anything that can help me make my stories a little bit more, have a little bit more information, or just in case I mess up on something. As your support and your knowledge is something that I always appreciate from you guys. But like I said, once again, besides that, it's your host, Sage the Samurai, and I'm out. Peace.